member in the chat says, this team is giving me a heart attack. Sounds like a day that ends in Y. We'll get to that shortly. We're all good. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. All right, so I don't know what got cut up, if at all, with my audio, but I was just breaking down again. We're going to break everything down inning by inning, as we always do. We're going to get it into our amazing sponsors at BetUS and Sorare MLB shortly. Going to talk to BetUS and how you guys can enter for your chance today to win a Mets jersey giveaway, in which we'll be announcing the winner at the end of this week. So be on the lookout for that. Mama Worm, love you too. Happy to have you in here, folks. So much to break down, so much to get into now, folks. But before we do anything else, before we get into things inning by inning and break down this ballgame, which was a whirlwind, a sweaty one, let's hear the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Let's let it rip, baby. Shout out to Greg and Jordan, as always, with the post-game jingle, everybody. I'm juiced up. I am pumped up. I know we are still 9 games below 500. I know that there are still clear, glaring holes with this Mets team and the issues that they have. But when you go out and you win a ball game against the best team in Major League Baseball and don't make the Mets look like more than a laughingstock that they've been, unfortunately, here in London when trying to look at the universal scene, looking at things globally to expand the game, usually doesn't help by bringing a team like the Mets into town, but it did today. Exciting, a roller coaster ball game that had every emotion, everything possibly imaginable in this one for you guys to wake up to. 10 a.m. Eastern was around the start time of this ball game, because we are never live usually around this time for post-game reasons here around 2:10 p.m. Eastern. We're 8 games now below 500. That's even better, everybody. My apologies. So the Mets again end this series where they started this series, which is certainly better than coming out of this series, say, I don't know, 10 games below 500? You know, that's not ideal, right? So the Mets are 8 games below 500. Francisco Alvarez is destined to return shortly. I will get into in a second. A guy who slid into Renz is a loser. I agree with you, Joel. We're Joel, or however you pronounce your name. I apologize. A lot to get into here, folks, as we're going to deep dive the highlights, as we always do. We're going to get into the highlights, breaking down the game inning by inning here. We're going to get into the pitching and why Jose Quintana needs to be out of here, and why the bullpen being taxed yet again today, even with the Mets having an off day tomorrow, is still a problem. We'll get into the hitting and why, again, the Mets did what they need to do today. Still frustrated me in certain aspects that we will get to shortly, and why Jeff McNeil back in the lineup was productive today. So what does that mean for his playing time going forward? Have a lot to say on that, along with Luis Torrens, again, doing everything in his power to warrant staying in this Metropolitan lineup, staying on this roster upon Francisco Alvarez's return. Everybody, I do have to fill you in just briefly before we break down the ball game, because I cannot believe how many of you have not been listening up on this. If you haven't already, guys, we are doing a Mets jersey giveaway, folks, and it is so easy to enter. All you got to do is check out our amazing sponsor at BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook, by signing up today by clicking the link down below in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus with not your first, not your second, but your first 3 deposits for all your sports betting needs. Then all you guys got to do to enter for your chance to win a free Mets jersey of any player currently on the roster, basically roughly a $200 jersey that I'm giving away out of pocket for free to one of you beauties, as we've done plenty in the past. And all you guys gotta do to enter is to sign up to BetUS with my unique link down below in the description and place one singular bet, like one I'm going to show you right now. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a $1 bet or a $1,000 bet. All I want you guys to do is simply place a bet. It is that simple. And as we look at the slate of games tomorrow here, and we look at some of these key matchups, we got the Yanks and the Dodgers as well. Of course, the Yanks got absolutely pistol whipped by the Dodgers, and Dodger fans took over Yankee Stadium yesterday, which was interesting to say the least. All I'm going to say is it's bold of fans to call another fan base, little brother, when you can't be big brother and being dominated by an opposing fan base in your own park, the way that I literally heard from Yankee fans at the game. At best, it was 50-50 Yanks and Dodgers yesterday. So I don't want to hear that nonsense. How about you worry about handling the Dodgers before anything else, shall we? But we look at the Dodgers, we look at the Yankees here. This is an interesting one. It's been a tough matchup. I am just going to put on the Yanks. Again, that I do like the money line a lot there. I'm going to go Yankees run line, funny enough, for tomorrow's, if not later tonight's game here. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I do have a level of faith in the Yanks keeping this a closer ball game here. Even if they end up losing, making sure that they maybe don't lose by more than a run. If I lose, hey, that just means that you shouldn't bet on the Yanks, which, again, is a perfectly fine thing to not do. But I'm going to put 50 down. That'll win me 33. Good luck to everybody that places their respective bets. And again, guys, once you place your bets, all you got to do is send your boy Wardy a screenshot of your bet placed that I know you placed at least one bet, signing up to BetUS to my email that is available in the description of the live show here. Draw DRAWT7 at protonmail.com. Again, link down below for you all to send me the email, the screenshot, and then you are automatically entered for your chance to win a Mets jersey giveaway. The winner will be announced by the end of the week. So again, you guys might just be a 1 in 10 odds of winning this jersey. Might be 1 in 20, 1 in 30. Either way, your odds are far greater this way than doing a overall channel giveaway where I just announce it for any of my people in the live stream where there's hundreds of people right away. You have a great chance of winning this jersey, everybody. Good luck to all that enter, and shout out, as always, to our great friends at BetUS. Hopping back into this one, though, folks, let's break down the ball game any by any now, shall we? Okay. Did Torrens get spiked? It wasn't great what happened with Torrens there, but thankfully he was okay. I don't know for certain what happened with him. It just looked like he got hit there as the follow through, as he, of course, got the tag at home and then got the throw there to first, which was just masterful stuff. I cannot get over the Luis Torrens hype train right now. It has been a thing of beauty, everybody. But the final thing I have to say for you all before we break down the game inning by inning, Kodai Senga was playing catch at Citi Field today, was looking good. So again, Senga, who's not returning until anything earliest post-All-Star break, in which Carlos Mendoza was asked yesterday outright, should we expect him anything sooner than All-Star break? And he said no, pretty much. And that is what we all kind of assumed, but that was reaffirmed by Carlos Mendoza. So if we do get Senga back at any point this season, will not be until the second half of the season, obviously. Furthermore, Francisco Alvarez has already returned from his family matter in Venezuela, and he is still up in the air to return the Mets as soon as this Tuesday, their next game, to kick off their homestand against the Miami Marlins. So Mets fans, get excited, buckle up. El Troll himself, Francisco Alvarez, is returning to the Metropolitans this week. It'll be as soon as Tuesday or at latest sometime this week. Rest assured, Francisco Alvarez has in fact returned, and I am juiced the hell up at just the thought of that backstop being our majority catcher and having the type of power implementation that he has in this lineup every single time out there. So excited. Cannot wait to see Alvy in this one. Cameron, thank you for the donation. Regarding my previous super chat, a roof at NYC would be 80% of the year, unlike Houston, Arizona, Miami, and Texas. Again, great points, and I appreciate the donation, Cameron. Thank you so much. I'm all in favor of having a retractable roof. The unfortunate part is that the Mets just aren't willing to spend. They're not going to spend that money that's going to cost, especially with everything else that they're trying to build around Citi Field, which at the moment is actually kind of halted, because I know that he had a casino hiccup, who's someone politically, I didn't know who, I have to double check, didn't give Steve Cohen the pass, and then he said that there's a lot more work that needs to be done there. They're working hard, but it's easier said than done, and I'll get into those comments here after we break down the ball game. But we're roughly 20 minutes in the show. Bob, how you doing? Happy to have you in here. Enrique Pardo, as always, try to sign up, but I live in California where they do not allow, Enrique, you're in like one of the few places where you can't do it, my man. It's okay, Enrique. You know what, Enrique, I appreciate the efforts there, my friend. Thank you so much. Don't worry, we'll be doing plenty more channel giveaways in the future. Once we do, and something that you can take part in, do exactly that. Thank you so much for your efforts. I appreciate it, no less. Let's see. Alvy will catch Scott's first win. It's their destiny. Potential franchise catcher and pitcher. One can only hope, Mr. Scott Greenwald in the chat. One can only hope. Now, breaking down the ballgame, folks. We got a lot. Your boys got a lot of notes. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's just hop into this one, because when I tell you this was such a whirlwind of a ballgame, it was such a sweaty one. This was one of those games where I'm so happy the Mets came out with the victory, obviously. 8 games below 500 is certainly better than 10, right? So, again, things could be much worse for the Mets team that currently sits 3.5, 4 games out. Buster only is on my television. That means that it's time to turn off the television. I haven't done that quicker ever in my life. All right, folks, let's get into it. In the bottom of the first, we see, again, it's Jose Quintana versus former Met Taijuan Walker. Taijuan Walker looks like Cy Young until he's out of there, and Mr. Jose Quintana is batting practice. So again, as you'd expect, unfortunately. Schwarber with an infield single. Torrens couldn't get the throw to first base there. And then we see JT Realmuto with a walk. Harper with a walk. Already bases loaded for Jose Quintana to kick off this game with the no outs. Somehow he does some Houdini magic and works out of it by just allowing one run, thanks to an Alec Boehm double play in which the run scores on fielder's choice there, and Castellanos would then ground out to end the inning. So again, Jose Quintana, who allows bases loaded, no outs in the first inning, does work out of that jam, but doesn't work out of it unscathed as the Mets are down 1-0 through one. In the bottom of the second, we see Sosa with a hit by pitch. Witt with the double play, thankfully, would end things from there not long after. We then get to the third. Brett Baty, who got the start today over Mark Vientos at third base. Marky V would return later in the game, and as always, Mark Vientos, every day he's out there for the most part, is making an impact. But not before Brett Baty, the Mets' 27th man in this two-game set in London, would record a single there to right. Nothing else would transpire for the Mets, however. In the bottom of the third, Kyle Schwarber with a single himself, but the same applies, nothing else transpires. As we then get to the top of the fourth, we have a 1-2-3 inning for Mr. Taijuan Walker, and at this point, he struck out 5 Mets batters looking. So Taijuan Walker's arsenal was looking absolutely silly to the Mets today because they had no clue how to pick up on it. He was doing a fantastic job working the zone, working low in the zone too. He got JD Martinez looking twice at this point already through the first couple innings. Already through 4, Mets are down 1. In the bottom of the fourth, then Castellanos with an infield single. Sosa with an RBI double, of course, Edmundo Sosa, another Cardinal castoff that has done well elsewhere. It's almost like the Cards have major problems with giving up on guys too soon or just not proper fits. We've seen that plenty. Sosa, who's been with the Phillies for over a year now, has done very well there in shortstop in relief, basically, of Trey Turner, who has yet to return from his injury, still around a week or so away. Sosa with a double there, Witt with an RBI single, Rojas with a single, and then Danny Young comes in, Schwarber with a walk, JT Realmuto would end the inning, but not before, again, the Mets are already down by multiple runs here, and as we take a look, they're down 3-0 in the fourth. Jose Quintana's final line, folks, already the day is done at 3.2 measly innings, doing his best Shaman I impression from yesterday. Difference is, Starling Marte wasn't in the outfield to mess things up for Sean the way he could have messed things up for Quintana today. No, it was DJ Stewart, and DJ Stewart, who profiles absolutely best as a DH, had a catch in right field today that Starling Marte wishes he could catch right now, as Marte is still, again, scared to dive. Marte was not in the lineup today that I called yesterday, not because of McNeil playing the corners. DJ, even though his defense isn't much better, it was enough for Starling Marte, who still has a flare-up in his knee. Let's not forget he was having a little bit of a knee issue that had him as a late scratch in one of the Mets' victories against the Nationals there before going to London. No less, Jose Quintana, 6.2 innings of 6 hit, 3 earned run, 2 walk, 1 strikeout ball, a 5.29 ERA on the season. There are little things to justify Jose Quintana staying in this rotation as every fifth day starter. Just absolutely brutal there, everybody. Oh, folks, I just realized something. I'm an absolute schmuck, and I apologize for that. I'm showing the wrong highlights. Thank you guys for enlightening me on that. I want to make sure I give you the proper highlights to show. There you go. There's the highlights you want to watch. My apologies, everybody. That's on me. Again, when you're doing like 10 things at once, the way that I am setting up the post-game shows, those things can happen. So appreciate the patience. Here's the highlights for you all. The same way as we get back into breaking down this ball game, the Mets are down already 3-0 here through 4. Danny Young comes in, does what he needs to do to get out of that inning unscathed for the remainder of it. Taijuan Walker works a clean 1-2-3 inning that we see there in the 5th. And the bottom of the 5th, for Danil Nunez, he would come in after 1 out for Danny Young. Boehm with a single, but he would be out thanks to a beautiful pickoff. The throw from Torrens to Alonso to first gets him out on review. He's clearly out with the tag, and that does it that inning. In the 6th, we see Luis Torrens, speaking of the devil, with the single. Then 2 outs later, we would see the Mets here. Alonso with the walk. Walker is out. Mr. Gregory Soto comes in, and with 2 outs, the Mets rally huge. And I got to give the Mets credit here today, because they faced 2 flame-throwing southpaws out of the Phillies bullpen today, and absolutely lit them up, absolutely got them to work their counts, and ultimately induce either walks, hit by pitches, RBI singles, whatever it needs to be. But Gregory Soto, who again is a flamethrower, did not have the flames today in a good way. Nimmo with an opposite field RBI double gives the Mets their first run of the day, and JD Martinez first pitch swinging on a slider down and in later ties the ball game up 3-3. Fantastic 2-out hitting by the Metropolitans here. A Mets team that went 2 for 11 yesterday with runners in scoring position were able to do damage and then some here in this inning. Unfortunately, they weren't able to add on beyond tying the game, because in a very Metsian fashion, anytime that they tie and rally, they have a tendency to not add any lead, any insurance there too much, at least in an impressive way. They weren't able to do so there, unfortunately. Vientos would get a pinch walk as he would come into bat there, which was awesome to see, because Vientos would have an impact later in the game. And then, pardon me, that's actually in the 7th inning, so scratch that, everybody. No less, Matt Strahm comes in then. It is the third pitcher used in the same inning in the 6th here by the Phillies, because you go from Taijuan Walker to Gregory Soto to the Matt Strahm, and Strahm gets Tyrone Taylor struck out to end the inning. It's tied ball game 3-3, everybody, as we get to the top of the 7th. Appreciate everyone first chiming in live on our replay, folks, to break down the latest in Mets land as they take down the best team in baseball in London by a final score of 6-5. And what was a sweaty one. My palms are still sweaty. My back is sweaty. I feel bad for my chair and my seat right now. But guys, we're rolling. We're going to continue to roll the best way we can here, as the Mets are now 8 games below 500, at least 3.5 to 4 games out of a wild card spot at the moment. Probably 3.5 after the victory today, barring any changes with the rest of the standings. But as we get into this one, in the top of the 7th, Jeff McNeil again, who got the start over Jose Iglesias today. Even though Iglesias had a couple hits yesterday that we saw has been productive every single time out there, McNeil, who's been riding the pine for a week plus now, gets the start here. And I will say, even though that McNeil has frustrated me so much this season, and that's exactly why his days are numbered with his limited playing time and his future in the organization, Jeff was productive today, so I will take that production. Because at the end of the day, if you are impacting the Mets, if you are in this lineup, I want you to succeed. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how I might personally feel about your game as a whole throughout the season. If you're productive that day, I'm happy about that production. Jeff McNeil was in fact productive. First, it starts with an opposite field bloop single that, again, almost does a Starling Marte impression, Mr. Christian Pache, if not Rojas, one of the two in the left. Lets the ball drop. Couldn't read it too well. They have collectively said that outfielders have struggled to see the ball well there in the outfield when playing in London. But Marte was just obnoxious yesterday, not diving for that ball on a 35% catch probability. I know the knee might be banged up right now, but again, if you're banged up, if you can't play competent defense, the bat can only compensate so much, especially when you give runs back the way you do after hitting your RBI double yesterday. Again, it only means so much when you give it right back the way that Marte did yesterday. But as we get down, breaking down further in the ball game, folks, McNeil with the opposite field single. We see Rojas would miss that on the bounce like Marte kind of. Vientos then with the pinch hit walk. Torrens, Lindor, and Alonso from there go down in the order. That's the problem. This is what bites the Mets in the ass one of multiple times that we have seen. Again, you have multiple guys on with less than 2 outs in the 7th inning. You have Torrens, Lindor, Alonso. Again, 2 out of your 3 hottest hitters, you could rightfully argue to a degree, and Torrens and Lindor especially, and they go down in order from there. That is a problem right there. And that is where I understand the argument with Torrens as well, if you're trying to put the bunt down there in the 7th, if not for the 6th. I know someone mentioned in the chat when they asked earlier, I don't know if it was the 6th or the 7th. Either way, though, in this situation here, for the Mets, when you had 2 on, it makes a lot of sense to bunt Torrens there, to shift the runners potentially to 2nd and 3rd base. But that didn't happen, and Lindor and Alonso go down from there. Mets are still tied 3-3. And you want to know who makes the Mets pay? You really want to know? It's David Dahl. So for anyone that's going to go out of their way to say, oh, Carlos Mendoza had a piss-poor managed game on the bullpen, it's all his fault for giving up the bomb to David Dahl, let's just preface this. Even Danil Nunez, who doesn't have great splits against left-handed hitters to begin with, is facing David Dahl. Can we not forget the fact it's David effing Dahl? And can we also not forget the fact that it's Danil Nunez hanging a breaking ball right down the dick? That it doesn't matter if you're David Dahl, or I would even argue, to a certain degree, if he could take the bat off his shoulders, and Daniel Vogelbach, anyone that has competency with the bat, even if you're only batting 100, like what Merrifield basically was leading up to that grand slam yesterday, they're going to barrel baseballs when it's right in the heart of the plate. Unless you're J.D. Davis on a fastball 92 down the dick. My point I'm trying to make here is, the Mets, while we can nitpick a lot of Carlos Mendoza, I can only nitpick to a degree here. Hindsight's 20/20. As we get into this entire situation, let's talk about it for a second, because there was a lot of drama on social media, and I understood. So, understanding both sides of the coin here. Understanding pro Mendoza decision. You started the inning with Danil Nunez at this point. Again, Nunez had been cruising. You want to try to get length from these guys. Nunez, you're hoping to at least get 2 innings from today with your bullpen being as taxed as it's been lately. Yes, I understand the matchup isn't ideal, but let's remember, now after a pitcher has begun an inning, even if it isn't until after he touches the mound, they do a swap, a pinch hitter and Dahl, because that's what happened. Initially, it was supposed to be Rojas, the righty, and instead is Dahl, the lefty, off the bench. The Mets needed to pitch Nunez there because the new rules in 2024 at least apply that a pitcher has to face at minimum one batter when starting an inning. So it doesn't matter necessarily that, oh, we should have had Diekman to face Dahl, because that wouldn't have happened, okay? Should Jake Diekman have started the 7th inning? That's an argument I can understand some people making. I also understand why Mendoza didn't do it, because he's trying to get length out of these guys when no one's giving him length right now. So again, I understand both sides of the coin. Rojas has piss poor splits against lefties, so he would have stayed in the game if you brought Jake Diekman in there, and they wouldn't have went with Dahl naturally for the lefty-lefty action there. That doesn't make any sense. Dahl's a guy that rakes against righties. He is a platoon option at this point in his career. So, while the argument can be had, should Jake Diekman have started that inning prior to Nunez doing anything, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. That might be true. But at the end of the day, it's a hindsight 2020 thing, because I understand, one, Mendoza wanted to get length out of Nunez here, and two, understanding that he couldn't pull Nunez even if he wanted to after we saw the manager of the Phillies swap Rojas for Dahl. So that's what I have to say about that. I can understand being frustrated about the bullpen as a whole. I can understand being bothered by Mendoza and decisions he's made throughout the season, but this is not one of those I think we should really emphasize too much. I think we have seen more to warrant frustration than something like this in particular, and thankfully, again, the Mets win at the end of the day, so it only carries so much weight as a whole. Where he didn't Diekman get you some points in your fantasy league, he absolutely did, Scott, as a matter of fact, with our great friends at Sorare MLB, funny enough. It's so great that you bring that up. Honestly, great transition into Sorare, but we're not going to talk about them yet. We will a little bit later in the show. Lost 100 years during that game, but we won. We won, baby. Yoshima, thank you for the donation. Love you, Yoshima. Great member as always. Great members, Daniel. All things Mets talk. Happy to have you all in here watching live on a replay as we're breaking down this Mets game, as the Mets take this one by a final score of 6-5. But yeah, I had a lot of notes there, because if the rule wasn't in place where Diekman could have came in after the batter was switched in Dahl, then it's a completely different discussion. Then you say, okay, why not pull Nunez then, especially if Diekman is ready? But one, Diekman was still warming up at the time of Nunez starting the 7th inning, and two, unfortunately, Nunez has been great. He just doesn't do well against left-handed batters, and unfortunately had to face a left-handed batter there. It is what it is. Thankfully, again, the Mets would rally and get the job done in this one, so we don't have to look at it and say this decision alone impacted the Mets greatly. It impacted them for a little bit, but didn't impact the game's outcome, thankfully. As we see here, though, after that home run by David Dahl to make it a 4-3 Phillies lead, from there, we would see really nothing else transpire. Jake Diekman gets a clean rest of the inning of work. We see Reed Garrett from there have a perfectly fine 8th inning, and then as we get to the top of the 9th, we see Tyrone Taylor with a walk, Jeff McNeil with the 2nd hit of the day, and this is a quality Jeff McNeil single. This is probably one of the first hits I've seen in a minute from Jeff, where he rips it up the middle, again, hits that with authority, isn't behind on the pitch too much, isn't lifting the ball for a lousy fly out to left field. That is the type of slap hitting that you want from Jeff McNeil, and that's what we're happy about, to say the least. So McNeil gets on. It's 2 on, no out here for the Mets, and then we see Tyrone Taylor get to third base, first to third on that hit by McHitz. Runners on the corners, no outs for Mark Vientos, who rips an RBI infield single, a little dribbler, doing our best 2022 Mets impression against the same Phillies team here, which they were so frustrated by, leading up to them firing, what's-his-face, and Joe Girardi and everything in 2022. No less, we see the Mets produce here, get themselves a tied ball game 4-4. A Luis Torrens walk, because he's an absolute beauty, continues things here. Jose Iglesias then pinch runs for Jeff McNeil. Bases loaded, no outs for the Metsies here, and this was massive against, again, Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado has been a fantastic reliever throughout the past number of years, but got absolutely titslit today by the Mets, and again, something that he caused. he couldn't get out of his own way. And Mr. Jose Alvarado, he was as erratic as one can be. You think he's 2019 Edwin Diaz with the way that he was pitching around these guys today. We see there Torrens with the walk, Iglesias as a pinch runner. Lindor, unfortunately, would strike out there in a decent at-bat. Alonso with an RBI hit by pitch drives in the Mets' leading run. They're winning 5-4 at this point. And then after a Brandon Nimmo strikeout on a questionable call to a degree, JD Martinez would ground out to end it, but not before the Mets would take a 6-4 lead, everybody. We see Torrens with the walk, Alonso with the RBI, and then a passed ball, which is what I forgot to say there for a second. A passed ball that, again, normally something that we see Mr. JT Realmuto, one of the best catchers in the game, catch there. I believe it was on a slider, just pops out of his glove. It gets behind him. That scores the Mets' 6th run. That run would be so vital because without it, the Mets likely don't win this ball game. Got to stay home from school to watch the game. Love to hear that, my man. Absolutely fantastic. At the same time, though, what school are you at, brother, that you had to be at school for on Sunday? Regardless of what it was, hope you're doing well. Happy to have you in here. All right, folks, as we get to the bottom of the ninth, I'm starting to nail bite. You're starting to nail bite. We're all saying to ourselves, okay, have I ever met Frank the Tank in person? Yes, I have, and that was before the Frank hype really began. It was in 2021. It was before he had his boosted ego the way that he does now, which everyone either loves or hates Frank. When I met him, it was a cordial interaction. He was docile, if I'm being frank, no pun intended. He was kind of, he was shy. He was quite literally shy. But again, this was years ago. This was when you were still wearing masks to Citi Field. So that's to give you guys an idea how long ago it was. But here we are, all nail-biting, all wondering, what's going to happen with the Mets in the ninth inning? What are they going to do? Who are they going to turn to? Because we've used this entire bullpen. We have a couple guys left. We have a couple guys that are healthier that we can utilize, but the problem is we decide to opt for Reed Garrett in the ninth because we're not comfortable with anything. So even though you have Adam Ottavino in the pen, even though you have a couple other options you can technically choose from, the Mets are like, no, we're going to just try to leg this out with Reed Garrett, who we know we've worked a shit ton in a very short period of time this season because we simply have little to no faith in our pen at the moment. And it's all thanks to our starters not giving us length and these guys not finding consistency. Again, these guys have been absolutely worked. And Andres in the chat says it best. Here we go again. Yep, we were all thinking the same thing. Reed Garrett comes in for the ninth inning again, trying to get the final outs for the Mets, trying to get the save. He gives up a single to Christian Pache right away. Schwarber with a pop out. JT Realmuto gets out via a hit by pitch, so 2-on-1 out here. Drew Smith comes in the ball game then. Drew Smith, as we know, many are arguing, he should have started the game. Mets suck, no one cares. Big deal, they won and wow, Pete, you want to know the best part, Pete? Even if you think they suck, my friend, you don't got to sit here to talk about it. You know what I mean? The 300 plus people in the live chat here on YouTube, the 500 to 700 on Twitter right now, and the thousands that are going to watch us on replay don't care about the fact that, oh, we suck right now. They care about the fact that the Mets won, and they're still Mets fans, and they want to hear it break down the game. So again, I would just preface this before yapping about typical always complaining. Yes, we're complaining about things when things don't go right, as typical fans do. This is short-term evaluation and long-term vision of a Mets team. I'm just sorry. If you're not new to the channel, you should know how things roll here especially. Yes, the Mets suck in the sense they're 8 games below 500. But are we going to stop talking about them? Are we going to stop being Mets fans? No, we're not, because we're Mets fans. As I digress, let's break this one down here. So we see Drew Smith come in which many fans were arguing Drew Smith should have started the inning. I understand that argument to a degree, but thankfully the Mets still win this one. Harper with a single. Bohm with an RBI walk. Again, very shaky situation. All the Phillies need is a single to win this ball game, and thankfully, a tremendous double play thanks to a broken bat Nick Castellanos. All thanks to Luis Torrens is exactly why we won this ball game. When I tell you this double play by Luis Torrens was so unbelievably beautiful, it doesn't do it enough justice. It's an understatement. Torrens, again, gets a slight dribbler. They're just out of the infield. You see the throw there. It doesn't have the full highlight, but an amazing throw by Torrens. Again, it is a broken bat there by Nicky C, just in the infield, just past home plate. Right away, he grabs the ball, tags home to get the first out, gets the second down, the final out there to first base to get Nicky C out. What a tremendous turn of events for the Mets. Luis Torrens, again, was a little banged up after the play because he was slid into by the Philly running from third. He was fine, thankfully, that we saw. And Torrens, again, who is on a $100,000 contract right now, that I'm going to actually take the quote here from Mr. Steve Cohen himself today. is looking like a man that is not going anywhere now upon Alvarez's arrival. That's another thing that stands out here. Francisco Alvarez, he's going to be back this week that we know, either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, hopefully as soon as Tuesday. Tomas Nido has done his part. Nido did basically everything you could ask from Tomas as a backup catcher. The problem, Luis Torrens on a very limited contract has done everything you could have asked for, you could have prayed Omar Narvaez could have given you. And if Omar Narvaez catches this game, the Mets lose. 1,000%. Not a doubt in my mind that they lose this game. I'll take a dirt nap and rise again in 3 days. That's fine, Pete. Nah, it was a great win for the Mets. Hey, any win's a win. There you go. I'm not even going to say it's a great win, Pete. We don't need to fluff it up like that. It wasn't a great win, but it was a victory. And it was a victory the Mets needed to help build some confidence with their offense, too. That has been very Jekyll and Hyde, of course, regarding the scoring position. And most importantly, I'm just glad that they didn't come out of this one completely swept, so we can actually enjoy some of our weekend here for my fellow Mets fans. But there's a great quote here from Steve Cohen today that I would like to share with you all. We have more quotes regarding Steve Cohen that we're going to break down here before we wrap up the show today, but this one holds true with Luis Torrens in particular, and is as follows. And I quote, we have a lot of the right people. We will improve the people in the organization. That being David Stearns, is well respected in baseball. The decision he is making is a lot sharper than it has been in the past. And a perfect example, we bring in Luis Torrens for $100,000 merely help us win a game. When you're fighting for a playoff spot, winning one game or winning 2 games really matters. So I like what I see, but unfortunately, it's going to take time. Again, this is the same Steve Cohen today that famously made note that, yes, we all know the trade deadline's coming. We all know about it. It's not here yet, though. For in the meantime, we just want to see this team succeed. We have faith in them. We're going to go from there. This is really the same kind of stuff you'd expect to hear from Steve Cohen, but there are a couple quotes in particular that I'm actually going to let you guys even listen to in the live show here before we wrap this up, and I'm going to want to know your personal thoughts on them. So we will get to that shortly, though. But Luis Torrens, what a fantastic beauty that he is. I cannot say enough great things on the performance that he's done. In just a week's period of time, Luis Torrens on a $100,000 contract, and what the Mets are only paying right now out of his entire deal, have gotten more production than Omar Narvaez, when Omar Narvaez has ate around $13 million over the past calendar year, and he's provided this much, versus a Torrens that has done so much more in a short period of time. Hit by pitch pass ball, we'll take it any way we can get it. Yes, we will. Again, I wasn't happy. The Mets got production in a very Metsian way. They didn't get it thanks to some awesome clutch hits, but I will at least emphasize that thankfully the Mets earlier in the game, again, tied the ball game with 2 outs thanks to Nimmo and thanks to JDM. So they did provide production there when the Mets needed it. And thankfully, it wasn't a situation where, okay, we're up 6-4 heading into the 9th. It was a tight one. It was a nail-biter. But thankfully, that additional run, that pass ball, was huge for them. Because JD Martinez grounded out then to end that top of the 9th inning. And if JDM just had a hit there, there's more production to be had. So it is what it is. The Mets still win this ball game, thankfully. But I understand Mets fans still not being overly satisfied. I understand them feeling a certain way, the way that they do. I get all that. Trust me, and I'm with you guys. It has been just as difficult for me watching this team every single day as I'm sure it has been for many of you watching out there. Wherever you're watching, either in New York, if you're watching all the way in London, wherever you're watching from, we appreciate you Mets fans, as we always do. Let me see what you guys got in the chat right now. Cohen is getting sick of hearing about the trade deadline. He's sick of hearing about it because there's only so much that can be done prior to it. That's why he's sick of it. He knows that they're destined to be more of a seller than a buyer by the deadline. He also knows that with the gap of the wild card race, they're going to try to stay in it, and they're going to try to both be buyers and sellers by the deadline. He's fed up hearing about it because no matter how much we talk about it, it doesn't change the fact that no moves can pretty much literally be had for at minimum a month from now. Nothing really picks up steam when it comes to anything trade deadline related until you get into the month of July. June is still premature, where values are still high and evaluations are still too early for teams and what they want to do by the deadline. And then you add in the wrench, which is the third wildcard spot. That wildcard spot hangs up so many more teams than usual now on wanting to fully buy or sell and not fully commit, because they know just a week's worth of games can really dictate where they are in the standings significantly. That absolutely happens. So that goes in hand with the frustration. That goes in hand with being fed up by those comments. Because again, even if the Mets do a complete selling spree, which they may very well do by the deadline, there's a solid chance that Sean Manaea And literally, Luis Severino, too, as much as it pains me to say, because I've been loving Sevy. When you get onto the roster, so many current guys on short-term contracts right now can all be out of here by the deadline. But even if that happens, it doesn't happen until we really get close to the deadline. Premature fire sales don't happen for justified, obvious reasons, and playing your hand with the market and wanting to make sure you can maximize your value. So either way, we're going to be in this rut for a little bit when evaluating the Mets leading up to the trade deadline. But again, the Mets win this one by a final score of 6-5, everybody. And let's get into a couple comments here on Steve Cohen. We'll wait on the Cohen comments. We'll talk more on the pitching here. Then we'll get into our great friends of Sorare MLB, talk a bit on the hitting. Then we'll get into Steve Cohen's comments to wrap up the show. I think that's fitting, and that's good. And again, appreciate everyone that's been taking the time. 4 games out, but 73 teams between us and the third wildcard team. Yeah, we have a problem. There are a lot of teams between us and that wildcard spot. But the bigger problem, too, is that things are still so tight right now. They're still so tight that it's within striking distance. That's enough for the Mets to say, even if it's fluff, that they're not going to do a full-blown fire sale right now, that they're going to try to give this a go and see what can happen and make any damage, if at all happen, heading into postseason play, should they somehow, some way get there. But when we talk about the pitching, everybody, let's break it down. Shout out to my man Isaac Rothman on Twitter. As always, Isaac is a great channel contributor. He gives me reports after every single Mets game to break down a little bit more on the pitching than maybe what you saw with the eye test. But in this one, we're just going to emphasize here Jose Quintana. Really not too much that needs to be broken down, but a couple things I would like to preface. First and foremost, there was a great thread that actually came out on Twitter recently that I highly implore you all to check out regarding Jose Quintana and his struggles. And the thread actually comes from Mr. I'm going to butcher the last name. Adam, Naliwajko on Twitter. All in one. He currently works with Tread. Again, for those that don't know Tread Athletics, Tread is similar to Driveline in the sense where they're working with pitchers, they're working with that newfound information, they're getting the best out of them. Again, a lot of advanced information, but great stuff for pitching analysis especially. He had an awesome thread on Jose Quintana, really breaking down why Quintana should just deviate completely from his four-seam fastball because it's far from effective, and it's only going to hold him back, and that continued to hold true today. But as we see here with Quintana as well, with the Arsenal today, when looking at where he's had struggles with the four-seam, he utilized that the least today, funny enough, but still struggled and couldn't get out of his own way. The four-seam fastball was utilized the least, funny enough, 7% of the time, whereas the sinker was 39% of the time today. Again, he topped out 93 miles per hour on the sinker today. Changeup 20% of the time, 86 miles per hour. Curveball 78 miles per hour, 19% of the time. Slurve 14% of the Arsenal, 78 miles per hour, and the four-seam fastball topped out at 91 today. Quintana was yet unimpressive, as a surprise absolutely nobody. Is there really anything that can be done to fix him? That's a great question. That's a question that Isaac has for me in this report. Former White Sox front office member or current Tread Athletics member Adam, who I just referenced, gives some suggestions, as we have discussed. His biggest issue is that four-seam fastball, especially to righties. They are hitting .311 against it and a roughly 600 slug and a .421 WOBA this season. The fastball is also slower than it's been in previous years. Why? Because Jose Quintana is getting older. Regression is naturally going to happen for a guy already now, his early to mid-30s at this point. His fastball already has some natural cut on it, and Adams suggests that he should scrap the four-seam altogether and actually utilize a cutter, which does make plenty sense. A cutter at 90 is a lot better and more effective than a four-seam fastball that's flat and naturally has some cut to it. And while the four-seam fastball was far from the greater problem for Quintana today, because it was the pitch he utilized the least, this is a further emphasis on problems that Quintana has had in the past so far this season with his arsenal and that four-seam fastball. Very similar to, for example, Frankie, thank you so much. If you want the shirt, shout out to my man, as always, Dave in the chat, great member. He's the one who hooked me up with the Mets shirt. It says WardyNYM and 30 on the back as well. So love to see it. Shout out to my man, Dave. You know who you are. Yeah, absolute beauty. But this brings a good discussion here for a second, because Reed Garrett is someone that we know has thrived so much in the bullpen this year because he's deviated away from that fastball, even though he's had to utilize it a bit more of recent because, again, guys just aren't swinging and missing on the splitty as much as they were to begin the season. But that splitty, that sweeper mix has been such a point of emphasis for him, why the four seam has come back a bit. That is what we should see to a degree with Jose Quintana. It was nice to see him have the four seam in the back pocket today as his final pitch to use, but what isn't nice is to see, even with Quintana not being a four seam heavy guy today, having such a lack of success the way he surely did today. It was just a putrid outing once again for Jose Quintana that struggles so mightily to give the Mets any type of life. He is quite literally our southpaw Carlos Carrasco. There's really no other way to deviate or look otherwise. That has been a reality this season. And when I look at guys like Jose Buto, even with him getting rocked his last start in AAA, I don't care. Even when I look at guys like Christian Scott, who we know will be up shortly, these are guys that I'm taking every single day of the weekend on Sundays over Jose Quintana with a true lack of consistency to handle the zone the way he hasn't. I know you might be wondering, Wardy, Jose Buto struggled with this command. He has struggled with the walk rate. That is true. But Jose Buto has been able to do something that Jose Quintana has struggled with at many points this season, getting out of his own mess without it completely imploding or hurting the Mets. To not even get 4 innings out of your starters the past 2 days for the Mets is downright despicable. It's disgusting, and there's nothing to justify it. I don't give a shit if you don't have the best stuff. Be a bulldog. Work out of it. And yet we can't do that. And the reason why we only did 3.2 innings of Jose Quintana in 69 pitches today is because that's how little faith Mr. Carlos Mendoza has in Jose Quintana. Even when your bullpen is as taxed and as hurting as it is right now, you still rather go to the bullpen because Quintana is far from a surefire guarantee in what you're getting. So the cutter, again, makes a lot of sense, especially against righties, can be more effective. It's a more natural supinator, which basically means, he has more wrist and hand movement towards his body. Supinators often also have really good cutters and sliders. So again, something that could be a fit potentially there for Jose Quintana if he's going to fine-tune his game whatsoever. He bends but doesn't break. Exactly, Daniel. Not much to talk about in terms of Quintana's actual start today, but this insight may give us at least a little bit of hope that he can turn his season around before it's too little too late, even though it's starting to feel more and more like that way. Overall grade, I'm giving Quintana today. Again, 3.2 innings of this. I had to give him a 3 out of 10. And that's what my man Isaac gave him. Everybody in the chat, and for people watching on replay, let me know in the comments down below. 1 to 10. Where do you give Jose Quintana in a ranking of a start today? I think 3 is fitting. I think a 3 out of 10 is very on par. Again, he didn't give up a lot of runs, but it's the fact that we couldn't provide any length with you because of how unreliable that you have been. It's the fact that Carlos Mendoza rather opt for Danny Young, Danilo Nunez, 2 guys that weren't even in the Mets bullpen a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, over continuing to pitch you because you're being getting beat up so consistently and just not looking sharp whatsoever. Major problems that we have seen here, unfortunately, with the Mets and with Mr. Jose Quintana. It is what it is. All I know is that the Mets, thankfully, get themselves a series split here, and they hope that with a day's rest tomorrow can help them a little bit. I know they're going to probably have jet lag for the next week, but at least they're at home for the whole stretch at Citi Field. 3 games set against Miami, 3 games set against San Diego, and you take it from there. Let's see, 3.0000001. Love that. Appreciate the comments, everybody. Thank you all so much for that. And before we get into the hitting stats, because I have plenty to say on the hitting, then we'll get into Steve Cohen's comments as well. This is a bit more of a long-winded post-game show today, but for obvious reasons, a lot to break down, a lot that's transpired throughout really not only the past day of baseball for the Mets, but a lot of little things going on behind the scenes too, including that Steve Cohen presser that I emphasized with you all. But before we get into it more, before we break down more on the ballgame, everybody, let me tell you all about our great friends, as always, at Sorare MLB. Because in case you guys and gals do not know Sorare MLB already, listen up, because you better listen now. Sorare MLB is the best MLB fantasy game out there. And in case you guys haven't gone in already, I don't know what you're doing. Because Sorare MLB is literally combining a virtual video game. Say if you're playing MLB The Show, you're being your own GM, and you're combining that with actual MLB fantasy. Meet Sorare MLB. You sign up. You, of course, draft your team. You enter weekly tournaments at least twice. You can enter a week. On Mondays and Fridays is when you normally enter these tournaments. And how you play in these tournaments is indicative on how the players perform in real life. So again, if you had Jake Diekman like I do on my roster, you're having yourself a solid outing because he pitched fine today. If you had Brandon Nimmo the way I do that I'm going to show you here shortly, he was productive even though it wasn't to a great degree. Just had an RBI in the series. No less, when it comes to actual true MLB fantasy, this is combining a video game with fantasy, meaning Sorare MLB, and you guys can win cash prizes, hundreds if not thousands of dollars with our great friends. An awesome promo that we're going to be doing soon on the channel starting this week, which gives you guys an opportunity to get an awesome trip to the All-Star game. all thanks to our great friends at Sorare MLB. We gave away a bunch of tickets on the channel to you Mets fans. That, again, all just for signing up to Sorare MLB with our unique link down below in the description and drafting a team. It was that simple to do. And so I saw some of the games you guys picked. I saw one fan pick a Braves game to go to. It was Braves against Dodgers or Yanks, someone else, but he's like, I don't even want to go to the Mets game. There's no point. There's literally no point. Oh, it was Braves-Orioles. I don't know which Mets fan it was, but one of my followers literally picked a Braves-Orioles game to go to. So you don't even need to go to a Mets game if you don't want to. But this is what I mean, guys. They have awesome different types of giveaways that we're doing all the time here with Sorare MLB. It's so much fun to play. And as you guys can see here, these are my two teams that I have been rocking. I've been getting absolutely cooked in my latest tournament. I did so much better last time around. Glasnow still has yet to pitch. Gunnar Henderson had himself a very productive outing to this point. Joey Ortiz not doing enough for me. Edwin Diaz still on the IL. Adley needs to do more. Nimmo didn't do enough. George Kirby didn't have as sharp a start, at least as what you're hoping, what we're seeing at this point. It may have just started, though. I don't know if he's actively pitching right now. Same thing with my other one. But as we take a look, folks, let's enter a tournament for our next, again, tournaments, which officially begin tomorrow, folks. So as you guys can see here, to enter a common all-star tournament, you're going to register right there, and then you're going to draft your team. So here, folks, I'm going to show you briefly how to draft one. I got Zach Wheeler as well as my probable starters. Edwin Diaz will be activated hopefully this week off the injured list, so we'll see what happens there. Adley Rutschman, I'm going to add him there. Gunnar Henderson, as always. Brandon, I'm actually going to go with Michael Conforto. We're going to put Michael in there. He had a big home run the other day. Let's see what Michael can do. We're going to put Logan O'Hoppe there and as my other option, and we're going to put Luis Severino, because he's been pitching great, as my other option too. So this is the roster I'm rocking with for our next tournament with Sorare MLB. Again, tournaments officially begin yet again tomorrow for the next 3 days of tournaments to begin. So shout out to you. Gotcha. All right, guys. Let's get into a bit on the heading here. Let's see what stood out today on the offensive end for the Mets, and then we'll wrap things up with Steve Cohen's comments, shall we? Okay, on the offensive end again today, we saw Francisco Lindor go for 5, 235 average, 710 OPS. Lindor, who was productive with the bat yesterday, wasn't today, and yet again struggled with runners in scoring position. Pete Alonso 0 for 3 with a run scored, 240 average, 797 OPS. So in a series where we saw Bryce Harper be a true team leader and have his heroics for the Mets, unfortunately, we couldn't get that type of charisma or excitement home run wise from any of our big boppers here. Brandon Nimmo, 1 for 5 today with the key RBI double that started the rally, and this one to ultimately tie the ball game for the first time. 222 average, 727 OPS. JD Martinez, 1 for 5 with 2 RBIs, the 271 average, 767 OPS on the season. DJ Stewart 0 for 2 in right field, 183 average, 675 OPS, but did have that awesome catch that I know he was probably behind on getting to begin with, but still a great catch in which DJ was a little banged up, but okay afterwards in that one. We also saw Harrison Bader pinch hit for DJ, went 0 for 1. Tyrone Taylor 0 for 3 today. Not some great at-bats today, unfortunately. 230 average, 602 OPS, but Tyrone did have one key walk, which was massive later on this ball game, so that was a very good at-bat there at least. McNeil 2 for 4 with the run scored, 232 average, 624 OPS. Jeff is likely going to get a decent amount more playing time this week because of a game like this, whether it's justified or not, but he will still be platooning with Jose Iglesias and his ability to play the corner outfields. That'll go in hand. So again, whether you love him or hate him, Jeff McNeil, he's not off the team yet. He might be by the deadline. He might be by the offseason. But for a guy whose days are numbered, he did have a productive day today, and the Mets will take that into account on how they evaluate him going forward. But I will say they absolutely will continue to be cutthroat the way that they have been in the past, because, again, he has great splits against lefty pitching, and the Mets didn't let him start for 5 straight games against left-hand starters, and 4 straight games as a whole, with a lot of lefties starting there. That's something to make note of. Brett Beatty, of course, getting the start there at third base. 1 for 2, 229 average, 633 OPS. Beatty will likely be sent right back down there to AAA for the time being. Mark Vientos 1 for 1 with the RBI, 324 average, 980 OPS. We love ourselves some Marky V. He's been so productive. I'm loving Mark Vientos, man. He has been an absolute wagon. I also don't know where we're at in the like count, everybody, but if you guys can continue smashing that like and subscribe button for your boy, greatly appreciate it, and thank you all so much in advance as always. Jose Iglesias had the run scored as a pinch runner later on the ball game. Luis Torrens 1 for 3 with a run scored. The huge throw to pick off Bohm at first base for the tag with Alonso, and the huge double play to end the ball game. Torrens with a 313 average, over 1,000 OPS, and is my backup catcher for the foreseeable future. Pete, thank you so much for the donation. Can Mets trade, let's see, Pete Jerzer for a bag of greenies? I'm sure you would like that, Pete. You sound like a checked out fan. One of many of us, I assure you. So you're not alone there. Appreciate that donation, though. And that's a great question, everybody. Should we trade Pete in the chat for a bag of greenies? Should we do it? Should we let it happen? You guys let me know in the chat. In case you're watching this on replay saying, who is Pete? We're not talking about Alonso. We're talking about Pete Jersey here in the YouTube chat. A lovely viewer of ours. Let's see what you guys have to say about that in the chat. Is Trent as good as Alvarez? No. No. Alvarez is one of the best catchers in baseball when healthy. 100%. Torrens has been fantastic in a limited sample size. Don't twist up the two. Just be happy that Torrens has thrived as much as he's been in a short period of time. So that is definitely something we appreciate that. Okay, talking about the offense, everybody. Let's get into some Steve Cohen presser comments today that I want to share with you all. I'm going to just let you guys listen to the audio, and we're just going to go through the comments together. So give me 1 second. I don't care about the player post-game comments. It's just the same nonsense every single day. Let's see what Steve Cohen had to say himself about the Mets pregame today. And if you guys want to check out that full interview, there's around a 15-minute or so interview available on SNY and the Mets YouTube page to check out in case you guys want to check it out further there. But plenty of quotes from Quintana, Steve Cohen today. Cohen gives his assessment on the 2024 Mets. All right, folks, I'm going to just let it rip and let you guys hear plenty of this. Oh, I just realized that I don't have the audio set up properly. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get that set up for you all. Headphones there. Should be good. Now let's give this a try.
Not what we expected and what we hoped.
Steve, what's your assessment of the way the team has played this season and what, if anything, has to change?
Well, I mean, we're 9 games under 500, and that's certainly not what we expected and what we hoped for. I do think the team's starting to play better, starting to hit. I'm starting to see green shoots. We got a long way to go, and a lot can happen over a relatively short period of time. And so, we're going to keep plugging. And I think our schedule gets a little easier, and so there are opportunities to gain ground. And so, we'll see what happens.
Steve, what's your assessment?
Okay. So those are those are Cohen's first comments. Then let's get into some more here. If you guys are just chiming in live now, folks, we've broken down everything about the ball game. Now we're just here to the point talking about Steve Cohen's comments and just listening up. Because I'm going to put my headphones in. I didn't even get a chance to listen to that full thing like a dummy. So let me set this all up now. All right. Let's get into the rest of the comments here. Steve Cohen is asked about how the Mets could approach the trade deadline. This is his response.
If this doesn't change, could you see yourselves taking the same tactic last year headed to the trade deadline?
Yeah, you know what it is? I'm focused on winning games right now. We can worry about the trade deadline. That's 7 weeks away. How many games is that? That's 45, maybe 50 games. And a lot can happen, so I'm focused right now on the season, winning games, and we'll worry about that when the time comes.
If this doesn't change, could you see?
Okay. Steve Cohen says he feels the Mets have a good run of them and remains hopeful.
You had spoken last year about, despite maybe taking a half step back, wanting to be competitive this year. Why do you think it hasn't sort of unfolded the way that you envisioned it over the offseason?
It's a variability of human performance, right? You can write it down on paper, but then you got to play the games. Frankly, we haven't really put it all together for a consistent period of time. And so, I still think that can happen. Listen, there's a lot of good ball players on this club, and it's just a question of, getting a little confidence, getting on a run. And I think that's possible. And so, it's, how many games are left in the season? 100? It's a lot. Okay, so, obviously, we'll see what, it looks like 4 to 6 weeks from now. And, but, I still feel this team has got a good run in them, a lot of good players, and a lot of good. I think the locker room's good, the culture's good. And so I'm hopeful.
That is the exact type of remarks that we've heard from Cohen to a degree in the past, which again, by reading through the fluff, it's common sense what I've been telling every single one of you. The Mets have a lot of expendable players by the trade deadline, and they are in a position where it really does not make sense for them to try to go on a run this year based on their status leading into the deadline, whether it's the ensuing couple of weeks to the deadline, whether it's closer to that, farther away. That is how they will evaluate. So, as things currently stand, 8 games below 500, 3.5 out of a playoff spot. Is that enough right now to warrant, if, say, the deadline was tomorrow, for the Mets to do a full-blown fire sale? I would say it's close to. I'd say it's at least at the point where you want to trade off some of these assets. And if there's any guys in particular you would like to try to return next season, maybe like a Luis Severino, for example, then I can see why and hold on to them, even though they have more trade value with them, even as a rental. So, point being, the Mets will be big sellers, or they will be a mix of buyers or sellers. That's pretty much what it's going to come down to. I don't see a world whatsoever where the Mets are full-blown buyers. They don't trade away anyone. I think even if the Mets upgrade for this season, it involves them parting ways with some guys this season. And I'll stand by that until I'm proven otherwise. More remarks here on Steve Cohen on the Mets fan base.
They came over here because they love the Mets. They care about the Mets. They're in good spirits, right? I was hanging out with them in the pub. We were having a blast. And you know, they're excited about being here, being at the games. And so, you know, the fans have been through worse, okay? And so, right, that's trying to break that history. And you know, they're great, and they're certainly going to be there for the team. They came over here.
Okay, Cohen with more on the big picture of the Mets.
Institutionally, do you think something is wrong that is leading to this?
You know, I actually...
You're in the midst of a second straight year of underperforming, I think, your expectations. Institutionally, do you think something is wrong that is leading to this?
You know, I think things are actually improving, Joel. You know, I mean, we've got new management. We're in the evaluation phase of, you know, I know what's going on in various parts of this system, you know, the infrastructure, you know, and so I think I actually am pretty optimistic, you know. Now, these things take time. Unfortunately, you just can't turn the system around, you know, on a dime. But I think we've got a lot of the right people. We'll improve the people in the organization. You know, I mean, we're going to have the best and brightest across, you know, whether in the minors or the majors. But that takes time. And, you know, I have a great deal of respect for David. And, you know, he comes from a winning club. He's demonstrated success in the past, well respected in baseball. You know, just this first season, even the decision making that's going on in the Mets is a lot sharper, you know, than it's been in the past. Much more concise. Perfect example is, you know, we bring in Louis Torrens, right? And you know, for $100,000 immediately helps us win a game, okay? And when you're fighting for a playoff spot, winning one game or winning 2 games really matters. So I like what I see, okay? But unfortunately, it's going to take time. Has a very. I have an office in.
This is the most asinine comment you're going to hear from Steve Cohen today, and it has nothing to do with the Mets. Listen up.
My firm has a very large office here. And so I came in there actually earlier last Sunday, did investor meetings and you know, hung out with my investment professionals. And so I've been here for a week, and I love London. You know, I think the food here is fantastic. Okay, I think it's better than New York.
What's your favourite thing to eat? Is it the full English breakfast or?
I tell you, I was on the 10th hole or 11th hole at Sunningdale, and they had these sausages at the Midway House. You know, that was awesome. Okay, little Coleman's mustard, little white bread on, you know, wrap it around, delicious.
Listen, I love you, Steve. I literally got an effing photo of us framed behind me. All right, I love the guy. You could even say that I love him a little too much at times. You couldn't have been more out of touch with reality, Steve. That is the most bougie billionaire bullshit you could hear. That is exactly what a billionaire would say. It would only be a billionaire, a multi-billionaire of north of $20 billion net worth to make such an asinine comment that London has better food. Then you're going to tell me an example of better food is fucking sausages? Are you kidding me? What? Over New York. That outside of the city that has probably is, if not the most culturally diverse hub of food out there, then surely, I know London's culturally diverse, but miss me with the bullshit, because he even referenced, like, British food. Brits will tell you firsthand they got nothing on us Americans, because we like things fatty, we like things greasy, we like things flavorful and unhealthy for you. That is insane. That is insane. I don't care what anyone says. Out of everything that I took away from the Steve Cohen presser today, that is the only thing that came off as genuine as possible and as bullshit as possible. Absolutely insane. Asinine comment. I love you, Steve. But, like, what? And I don't think you need to go to London to figure out which one has better between the two. What? Unbelievable. Ridiculous. These are the same schmucks that, yes, that literally, my man Darren from the UK will say best, they have pizzas in the UK that they put beans on. Like, I know we do some sick things here in the States. I know that we do everything to have your cholesterol level high and your life expectancy low. It doesn't change the fact that New York City, New York State as a whole, does laps around London. Does laps around London in their food. I don't want to hear that shit again. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. Oh my God. Steve Cohen updates on the plan to build around Citi Field is as follows, everybody. Listen up.
What's next for your plans at Citi Field? Is it casino or bust, or would you be open to Ballpark Village in Atlanta or the mighty St. Louis?
Well, fortunately,
That is true. I was running a sausage promo a month ago. That's completely besides the point. Just because I ran a sausage promo did not say that I think that's better than New York food. No. I would have said no to the promo if that were the case. But that's good digging there in the chat, Korea. I appreciate that. That's a good comment.
we're sitting on, like sort of not marshlands, but a low area. We have to make it all work. We need an economic engine if we're going to do something significant, and plus you got to replace the parking. Okay, you're going to build something on it. Well, where are you going to park? And so parking garages to build are incredibly expensive in New York. And so, there needs to be an economic engine. We want to build a, hotel, gaming, area that the fans can enjoy. That's the goal. We're going to keep pushing forward. And my hope is that, we're successful.
Okay, and that's it for the Steve Cohen comments, folks. Everything that you really need to hear there was as follows. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys are just as bothered as I am by that that London food's better. Honestly, I wonder if he just did it to gas up London because they were there. Because Steve comes off as the type of guy to just BS straight through that thing, just for the sake of why not, because he's having fun with it. Either way, crazy comment, crazy day of baseball, crazy victory for the Mets here as they take down the Philadelphia Phillies by a final score of 6-5. Everybody, I want to thank you greatly for taking the time to watch live on a replay. It really does mean a lot. We will be back live with you all, if not tomorrow, because we have an off day tomorrow, so may actually have a video out for you tomorrow. So if there is any type of content, can't guarantee it will be a live stream, but there may be some form of content out sometime tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Outside of it, everybody, I hope you just all have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Sunday evening. Try to, go out, enjoy weather if it's nice on the East Coast for you or wherever you're at. Have a nice dinner today with your family and your loved ones, and just know that the Mets won a game today, and you didn't have to stay up late for it. You can just go about the rest of your day. So that's going to do it for your boy Wardy. I will see you guys all tomorrow, if not Tuesday. Until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. And as always, this is your boy Wardy signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace.